Good evening from Nairobi. My name is Dr. Joyce Wangari. I am the lead mentor at AIDA Africa. We have two programs, flagship programs, the Africana Journal Clubs, as well as the Research Mentorship Collective, all designed to mentor early career researchers, students, scholars, statisticians, practitioners in the field on all matters research and research mentorship. So thank you everyone for joining in, and please introduce yourself in the chat. I already see some introductions. Jane Nakawesi says, hello, my name is Jane from Uganda, studying at the University of London. I have just started my research focusing on how local government planning impacts on local integration of self-settled refugees in urban host communities. Welcome, Jane Nakawesi from Uganda. We have Helen Kanjagwa from Kenya, postgraduate student at Daystar Research. You've told us a little bit about your research as well. Let me just see. Assessing psychological correlates among people in the motorcycle taxi industry, hoping to learn how to write a good literature review. I have a lot more people introducing themselves. Keep them coming. I'd like you to tell us more about what you're doing, and I'll read them as we go along. But because of time, I would like to now introduce our speaker. Today we have an amazing topic on literature review, and our speaker is none other than Dr. Stephen Kidiga Ogonda. He is a mentor, peer counselor, and educator. He's also a postgraduate student of Master of Arts History from Kibabii University, having done a Bachelor of Education in Arts, where he majored in history. He's among the leading innovation team members during the 2021 Venture for Change program in University of Eldoret. Apart from undergraduate and postgraduate studies, Ogonda Stephen has other accomplishments, which include digital education certification from Commonwealth Digital Education Leadership Training in Action, electrical wireman and installation from NITA, and food safety and security research certification from Making More Health. So currently he's working on his master's proposal alongside the East African Community Innovation Program. Outside the classroom, he is an entrepreneur with hands-on skills, which include a diverse array of activities, electrical work, masonry work, food and beverage work. And mostly his research is based on social sciences with a key interest on women. For example, the place of women in national politics, the role of women in the modern world as far as religion is concerned, and so on and so forth. We're so honored to have you, Dr. Stephen Ogonda, and you may begin the session. Can you hear me, Dr. Stephen?
Yes, I can hear you.
Welcome.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Sorry for the inconveniences. I was trying to get connected, and now I think we are set and we can begin the session.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that elaborate introduction, Dr. Wangari. As everyone has heard, we are going to talk today about literature review, and I'll just maybe mute my video for the purposes of data and bandwidth. Then I can be switching on and off as we continue with the presentation. I don't know if everybody can hear me. Hello,
sure.
madam.
Can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Oh,
yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much. So we can continue with the presentation. Eh?
Yes, will you be screen sharing? So I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we shall be screen sharing as we continue so that we can make members understand what you are talking about as far as literature review is concerned. And I will start by sharing. Let me check my screen.
Yeah, let me enable. Are you? Oh, you are able. Wonderful. Good. Proceed.
Yeah. So just a minute. There we are. Everybody, can you see the screen from your end?
Yes, we can see. You can put F5. Yes. Wonderful.
Is that okay now?
Coming, it's coming. It's taking a few seconds to pop up.
Okay. I see as it still
Maybe
pop
press
ups.
it again. Maybe I don't think it was activated. Press again to pop it up.
Okay, just a minute.
Yeah.
Are we there?
Not yet. Maybe
Not
just
yet.
press F5 on your keyboard. Might work.
F5.
See which one.
Are we there? Or
Not yet. So
Not yet.
I'm not sure. Maybe try stop sharing and then you share again. You see
I
if it
share
will-
again. Eh?
Yeah. See if it will activate.
Joyce?
Yes. Yes, Isaac,
Yeah.
you have an idea?
Yeah, you can see the screen,
Oh, so we just
but
continue.
it's not in a presentation mode. So what you can do is that it clicks down there, the presentation mode, and
The
it should be
presentation.
analyzed. Yeah, but I can see the screen from my end.
Oh, you can see it. Eh?
Yes, I can see it from my end, but it's not in presentation mode.
So I put it in presentation mode.
Yes, so you go down there, down right, you see a funnel, something like a funnel, you click on it and to the end.
From my end, my screen operates from the top, so I don't know. Let me stop sharing it first, then I'll share again.
Yeah, just
Okay.
try. Yeah, there's the same icon. It's both at the bottom and the top. Yeah. Try again.
Okay, sharing the screen.
Yes, now we can see. You may proceed.
It's the literature review, right?
Yes.
Okay, now we can continue. Thank you very much for your patience, guys, and let's continue with the presentation. Now, so today we are going to talk about literature review, and it comes in chapter 2 of a research proposal, or when you are doing your research proposal or your research paper. And for the members present, maybe some of the learning objectives, we are going to look at what is a literature review in research, maybe objectives, purpose, and functions of literature review in research, where, when, and why you should write a literature review, what are the parts of a literature review, how you should organize your literature review, what are some of the strategies you can use while writing a literature review, the literature review sources, reviewing and abstracting literature, and finally, presentation of your reviewed literature. Having said that, I don't know, maybe from your end, I still have some technical inch about bandwidth
I'm
and
sorry
network.
about that. If you can
Yeah.
send me the slides, I can share for you, no problem.
Okay, just a minute. I send it to you.
Yeah, because they're not moving, but at
Yeah,
least
that-
you can see the first slide.
Okay, fine. So if you can see the first slide, let me send you the others so that you can assist me, Dr. Ongari.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, literature review is a comprehensive summary of previous research on a topic. The literature review surveys scholarly articles, books, and other sources that are relevant to a particular area of research. What do we mean? For you to do a literature review, it means as a researcher, you are going out in the field to look and find out what other researchers have done, which areas or which fields have they researched on, and if any of the research relates to your area of study, The review should enumerate, describe, summarize, objectively evaluate, and clarify the previous research. Let's say, for example, I'm doing a research about the post-COVID-19 and its effect on the economy of African countries. Is there anybody who has done such a research? If there is, what did they say? What did they realize? What were their findings? What were their recommendations? And what were their conclusions? So that is a review. I am trying to find out what other researchers have tried to get as far as COVID-19 coronavirus is concerned and its effect in Africa. That is one. We can also have another example of maybe somebody has done a research of the place of women in active Kenyan politics, Ugandan politics, maybe Tanzanian politics. How are women perceived as far as politics is concerned? Are they given the first priority? Is the third gender rule applying? Or women are being neglected and not given the priorities as the same as their male counterparts? So
Excuse me, Dr. Ogonda, I have the slides in PDF. So
PDF.
if you don't mind, I can share that. Or have you sent them in PowerPoint? Or I just share the PDF version?
No, let me just send you the
PowerPoint. Yeah, you can just take a minute to do that. No problem.
Okay, fine.
Fine, yeah. So meanwhile, let me just read the introductions. People who are still coming in. We have a large audience today. This is amazing. Thank you all for being here. I had already read some of you, what you do. Helen Matan from Eldoret, Kenya, a recent college graduate, but planning to pursue business administration at the University of North Carolina, Wesleyan. Anything that touches on business administration and the entire business field will be much appreciated. Welcome, Helen, you're in the right place. Hello, my name is Ndudu. I'm writing my project for masters. I wonder which field you are in, Ndudu. Isaac Nketsia, University of Cape Coast, Ghana, SME development, intellectual property management, academic integrity. And you would like to deepen your understanding of reviewing literature. Then Adelaide. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adelaide, a postgraduate student at the University of Nairobi, Kenya. Hi, I am Zipporah Ojijo, a counseling psychologist, planning to pursue masters in psychology, clinical psychology. I'm new in research here, hence very eager to learn. And a few other people agreed with Zipporah. They said, I'm also new, you know. Jane Nakawesi also said research is also a new career path. I plan to join this network for more learning, yes. Nancy Mwali from Nairobi, postgraduate student in finance, St. Paul's University. Ruth, master's psychology at Daystar. I'm doing my proposal this semester. Thank you so much, Ruth, for that. Let me just send you, Steve, my email, just in case you're looking for it. I thank you all for introducing yourselves so we get to meet each other here. And then we have, who else? We have Raf Owego, postgraduate student at KU, working on a comparative study of 2 dialects in Kenya with special emphasis on their format values. That's linguistics, okay. Then we have Esther Njoki, postgraduate student. Okay, so I've received the slides. Thank you so much. Let me just screen share them shortly. And I still see a lot more people are coming in. So this is wonderful. Very well done. So in a minute, I'll be sharing the slides. Sorry, everyone, for the delay, but thank you also for your patience. All right, so here we are. I have the slides now. Your phone is iPhone, kindly rename. I see somebody is already raising their hand. We haven't even started. Veronica, do you have a question about the presentation? Veronica, your hand is raised. I don't know what you are trying, or did you raise it by mistake? So I hope everybody can see my screen. So I think you can proceed. Over back to you, Dr. Steve.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wangari, and sorry everyone for the misconvenience caused. At times, internet and the technical links is a big deal. So welcome back, and we shall be continuing. That is literature review, and that will be our learning objectives. I had read them in my introductory part, and I don't need to repeat. Now, we go to the definition of literature review. We had said that literature review is a comprehensive summary of previous research on a topic, the literature review surveys, scholarly articles, books, and other sources relevant to a particular area of research. Now, the review should enumerate, it should describe, it should summarize, it should objectively evaluate and clarify this previous research. It should also give a theoretical base for the research and help you, the author, determine the nature of your research. The literature review acknowledges the work of previous researchers, and in so doing, it assures the reader that your work has been well conceived. It is assumed that by mentioning a previous work in the field of study that the author has read, evaluated, and assimilated that work into the work at hand. I was giving the example of the post-COVID-19 pandemic in Africa. We all know what happened, where it started. So supposing we want to do a study on the effects of COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 in Africa and the economies of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Nigeria, what have you. You should first of all, as a researcher, find out, is there anybody else who has done a similar research to the one you are doing? And if they have done the research, what did they find out? What were their findings? What were their conclusions? And what were their recommendations? For you to be a good researcher, as far as literature review is concerned, you should try to find the gaps. Now, we should find the objectives, the purpose, and functions of literature review. Why are we carrying out the literature review? Now that it is a comprehensive research of the previous work done by other researchers. The objective of a literature review is to motivate your work by explaining its social value, to provide background context for your readers, to compare your findings with other research, to justify your experimental method, and to communicate your project's scientific novelty by framing a research gap. When we say a research gap, we mean maybe somebody tried to do a research in a given area or a given topic, but they did not fully expedite. They didn't come out with all the required information pertaining to that topic. So you will use that gap as a chance so that you can broaden and give wider research work on the same topic. If we can move to the next slide, kindly, Dr. Wangari. The purpose. What is the purpose of a research? What is the purpose of literature review? Why are you reviewing? Why do you need to find out the work of other people so that you can compare with yours to come up with a concrete idea that you can share to the entire world? In general, the literature review should provide a context for the research. It should give you the base. It should identify seminal works and scholars in the field. It should acknowledge existing theories, points of view, hypotheses, etc. in the field of research. For example, we are using the effects of COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 in Africa? Where did it start? What were the causes for the COVID-19 to start? Now, after it started, where did it spread to? Why did it spread to the areas it spread? And that's why we are saying you should justify the research. Some people say it began from the developed countries and it rolled down to the developing countries. You know, in Africa, we are third world developing countries. But when we cross the borders and go overseas, they are the developed countries. So if we will be using the COVID-19 pandemic, it is believed that the virus spread from the first world developed countries and rolled back down to the third world developing countries. As a researcher, the purpose of literature review is to clear up misconceptions about previous research. Supposing somebody studied and found out that it is true, COVID-19 broke up and started in China. Do you have the facts? Can you justify? Can you tell us the real facts? Is this and this and this led to the spread and breakout of coronavirus? So you should clear the misconceptions. You should do and have facts at hand. You should not operate on hearsays. You should not operate on ideas. You should have your points clear and objectively. If put in a court of law, you can defend yourself and say, yes, I have the facts that it is true, coronavirus started in China. That is reviewing the literature. Now, literature review, it should ensure the research has not been done before, or if it is repeated, that it is marked as a replication study. That's why you have to extensively look into the work of other people before coming up with your final report so that your research can proceed to the next level. Now, let's look at the next slide.
Yes, we are there.
The purpose. A literature review, it should show you where the research fits into the existing body of knowledge. Our topic is the effects of COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 pandemic in Africa and the developing economies of the third world countries. Now, does the research fit in this body of knowledge? Which body of knowledge are we studying in? The economy. Which economy of the third world developing countries? Not only in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Nigeria, all over Africa, people lost jobs, their salaries were given half, people are really suffering, and a lot of bad things happened to the people of Africa. So, as you review your literature, it should enable you, the researcher, to learn from previous theory on the subject. What are the underlying theories as far as COVID-19 pandemic is concerned? Supposing somebody had done a research on the same, what did they find out? You should highlight the flaws in the previous research. If it has some gaps, some points and areas which are not clear according to you as a researcher, you should tell us that this and this is not correct. But according to the recently done research, I found out that coronavirus, it did not only start and broke out in China, but it also started and broke out in the neighboring countries around China. And you give us the names of these countries. In Dr. Wangari's introduction, she mentioned that I major in history. And as a historian, we don't operate on hearsays. We operate on facts. You should tell us the facts that this and this happened in China. You should not give us opinions. We are not opinionated. You should be objective and not subjective. You should highlight the gaps in previous research. If the research does not fit into some of the things you are studying, you should cross, put in brackets, highlight whatever is not correct, and give us the correct things. When you continue with reviewing your literature, you should show that the work is adding to the understanding and knowledge of the field. The field here is the economy of developing third world countries. Now, what effects did the pandemic have on the economies of these third world developing countries? You can understand that even the currency itself, supporting in Kenya, we use the Kenyan shilling. The value of the Kenyan shilling started dropping over the dollar. What does that mean? It meant that even foreign investors who are away and had came to invest in Kenya could not invest because they don't see the value and the network of their investment. As you do literature review, it should help you refine the topic, refocus the topic, or even contribute to the topic's evolution. That's why many researchers, when you are at the stage of concept paper presentation, you present your concept paper, you present your topic, and you are told, no, I think this and this should be like this. Kindly go and realign your topic. And all that is research. So it is through the small bits and small stages that we go through while doing literature review, you come to know things that you did not know. Now, what are the functions of a literature review? A literature review creates a landscape for the reader, giving her or him a full understanding of the developments in the field. The field at center, we are interested in the economy of the developing third world countries. So this landscape informs the reader that the author has indeed assimilated all or the vast majority of previous significant works in the field into his or her research. It answers the question, can I proceed with the study? If so, in which direction? It serves the following functions. One, it helps a researcher to define the problem more clearly in terms of selecting variables that are within one's interest and resources. For example, it helps the researcher to formulate a researchable problem. As a researcher, when you go to the field, you should identify the problem among the people, among the community, among the entire vast region that you're going to do your research. Is that problem researchable? And if it is researchable, can you get solutions to the problem? That is the work of research. A literature review helps one in developing background of the study. Now, when you have reviewed the literature and all other literary works done by other researchers, you can sit down comfortably and courageously give us your background study. On which grounds are you doing that research? It provides the framework of referencing, orienting the reader to the area in which the problem is found. We shall continue to use the effects of COVID-19 pandemic in Africa. Where did it originate? What effects does it have on the economies of the developing world? When it originated in the mentioned area, what were the underlying circumstances that made the pandemic to come up? Are there some wild animals involved? And if they're involved, how are they involved? That is literature review. It helps in identifying the gap to be filled by your study, either in terms of conceptual setup or methodological setup. When we say conceptual, when you go now back as you continue with your study and your research, remember, you will have variables. You will have dependent variables and independent variables. So you should clearly highlight which variables are dependent and which ones are independent for you to give us a good conclusion or a good solution to your research. A literature review helps you to establish theoretical framework. This in turn provides an empirical basis for the development of hypotheses and for explaining the relationship between variables. You have identified your dependent variable. You have identified your independent variables. Now, how do these variables relate? After you have done your conceptual framework and your theoretical framework, theory has to do with other research and theories underlining and which are outlined in line with your topic. That's why we say a literature review will help you find a good topic for your research. If it is not good, you'll have to realign. You will have to refresh until it fits and suits your study. A literature review also, it helps you to identify the significance of the study in terms of practical or theoretical values. At one point, a member asked, between literature review and statement of the problem, which one comes first? You need to identify the problem for you to do the literature review. Remember, reviewing the literature is finding out other literary works by other researchers on your topic. So you should first of all identify the problem at hand before you go out and research on it. Now, where, when, and why should you write a literature review? There are several steps in developing a literature review. These include selecting the topic. If your topic is not up to date and does not conform to the terms and conditions of a viable, researchable topic, then you have a problem. That's why most researchers will give up at the initial stages of developing the concept paper, because you take this topic, your supervisors and advisors tells you, no, this one, it will bring problems. Kindly refresh. So when you do a literature review, it assists you to come up with a suitable topic. You should also set up the topic in the context. For example, the effects of COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 pandemic in the third world developing countries. Does the topic suit in the context of developing countries? Does the topic have the impact that we shall find out indeed the pandemic had some effects, both positive and negative, on the economies of these developing countries? Another step, you should look at information sources. You go to the journals, you go to the online libraries, you go to the published papers, you look at dissertations, you look at theses, and find out what have people written. You even go further and look into government websites, magazines, and find out what does a given government say about the issue of COVID-19 on the economies of developing countries. You should use these information sources to develop your topic and broaden your research area. You should get the information. You should organize the information. When it comes to information organization, you can use information management systems. We have several. As you continue with your research, when you will have completed the whole process of developing your topic and doing your literature review, when you sit down, you just go to your database of information management and get which country said what, which journal says what, which dissertation says what. Somebody published this in a given thesis. What did they say about the effects of COVID-19 on the economies of developing countries? You should position the literature review. It should be in the position. You should align the review together with your topic. The topic here is the effects of COVID-19 pandemic on the developing third world countries. Does it align with your literature review? If it doesn't, there is no way you will involve maybe the organization of countries, the leadership of countries, you incorporate politics, yet we are talking about COVID-19 pandemic. It is a pandemic, and it started from somewhere before spreading to other places. So you should find out how did that happen. Positioning the literature review. Now, continuation of where, when, and why should you write a literature review? We now go to the writing the literature review. You have gathered several sources, you have gone to the field, you have read the citations, you have read papers, and so forth and so forth. There are a number of different situations where you might write a literature review, each with slightly different expectations. Different disciplines have field-specific expectations for what a literature review is and does. For example, in the humanities, authors might include more overt argumentation and interpretation of source material in their literature reviews. Whereas in the sciences, authors are more likely to report study designs and results in their literature reviews. I'm glad among the attendants, we have people in the field of science, people who are doing medicine and who have mentored in the field of medicine. Here, they don't do their research the same way the people who are in the humanities and social sciences will do their research. Them, they report direct in the study and the research designs. But in the humanities, they have to have facts. They should give us the existing facts. We don't need opinions. But for a science student, they can give opinions because they are doing the research. They have not yet established. For example, whoever identified that the female Anopheles mosquito causes or carries the Plasmodium parasite that causes malaria. That one is just an opinion. He was thinking about it. And when the full research was done, it was proven that it is true. Now, when it comes to social sciences, let's say the place of women in world politics and leadership, is it the same? What is the ratio? Normally, like for example, here in Kenya, we use the a third gender rule. For every 3 people, 1 must be a lady. Now, that one, you should give us the underlying facts. If we go maybe in a sitting, in a parliament, can we identify among any 3 people, we have 1 female, 1 female, 1 female. So if that is the case, then you are good to proceed with their study. These differences reflect these disciplines, purposes, and convictions in scholarships. You should always look at examples from your own discipline and talk to professors or mentors in your field to be sure you understand your discipline's convictions. For literature reviews, as well as for any other genre, I am a social science student. There is no way I can consult a science mentor. No, I should look for another social science mentor to mentor me because they are good. They have vast knowledge in that region. It's like asking a teacher who teaches social sciences, the likes of Christian religious education, Islamic religious education, Hinduism, to explain to you concepts in atomic physics. It doesn't work that way. For those who want content in atomic physics, let them look for scientists, teachers of science. But for those who are in social sciences, let them look for mentors from the field. So you should not confuse. If you look and identify the appropriate mentor, professor, or director, then there is no way you can mess or go astray in your research. A literature review can be part of a research paper or scholarly article, usually failing after the introduction and before the research method section. In the procedure and protocol of doing a research, we have chapter 1, where you will tell us the introduction and what you're going to tell or research or find out in your paper. Then after the chapter 1, the chapter 2 now comes the literature review before you go to the research methods. Before you tell us the methods you are going to use to do your research, you should first of all identify research done by other scholars and fellows in the same field you are doing the research. That is literature review. You are trying to find out other factors underlying the topic you are studying, or the ones that are in line with whatever you are studying. Literature reviews can also be standalone pieces, either as assignments in a class or a publication. In a class, a literature review may be assigned to help students familiarize themselves with a topic and with scholarship in their fields, get an idea of the other researchers working on the topic they are intended in, find gaps in existing research in order to propose new projects, and or develop a theoretical framework and methodology for later research. As a publication, a literature review usually is meant to help make other scholars' lives easier by collecting and summarizing, synthesizing, and analyzing existing research on a topic. Now, for example, the African Journal Club, we have papers we have published. For the upcoming researchers, they can just decide to go and log into our website, www.africanjournal.go.ke. They find some of the published papers, they look at them, they look at what people have done, and they go and either expand or reduce their topics and their literature reviews. This can be especially helpful for students or scholars getting into a new research area, or for directing an entire community of scholars towards questions that have not yet been answered. Now, when you are doing literature review, what shows you that this is indeed a literature review? We have what we call parts of a literature review. Most literature reviews use a basic introduction, body, conclusion, structure. When you are starting chapter 2, usually written literature review, you should give us the introduction. What do you want to tell us? What is your research about? What is your topic? Now, you go into the body. What have you found out about other researchers? What have they said about your research topic? Then you give us your conclusion. What do you think? Are you going to continue with the research on the same topic, or is there something you are going to reduce or add as far as that topic is concerned? When it comes to introduction in a literature review, it is a paragraph that explains what your working topic and thesis is. For example, here, our topic is the effects of COVID-19 and post-pandemic on the developing economies of third world countries. A forecast of key topics or texts that will appear in the review potentially should describe and tell us the sources and how we are going to analyze them for inclusion and discussion in the review. That's why we need to do the review. We should go in the field, get to the sources, find out which author said what about COVID-19. More often, they are found in published standalone literature reviews than in literature review sections in an article or a research paper. If you go and research on a fully published paper, you are more likely to get enough data and information compared to just a small article. Take, for example, an abstract paper. An abstract paper just gives a brief description. It doesn't give the excessively, or it doesn't exhaust whatever you might need. So you should be very keen when you are giving us the introductory part during the literature review. The next slide. We have the body. This one, it summarizes and synthesizes whatever you have given us in your introductory part. For example, it gives an overview of the main points of each source and combine them into a coherent whole. According to so and so, that COVID-19 pandemic did this and this. When it broke out, this and this happened. You see? So you are giving us a summary, a synthesis that they cohere, they go hand in hand with your topic. Don't just paraphrase other researchers, add your own interpretations. Where possible, discussing the significance of findings in relation to the literature as a whole. This is now in the body. You have given us the introductory part that you are telling us you will be researching on the effects of COVID-19 pandemic in the developing countries. Now, if you're going to research on the same, what are you going to add on the other research that have been done by other people? Then we have the comparisons, the contrasts, the connections. You should give us which points connect with each other, where are the comparisons, which ones are the same, and the contrasts according to you and to that researcher who did a given work earlier than you. What they found and what you have found. Is there a difference? If there is, what are you going to do about the difference? That is reviewing literature. Then we have the conclusion as far as literature is concerned. You summarize the key findings you have taken from the literature and emphasize their significance. That's why we have the significance of the study in chapter 1. That's why we have the scope of the study, limitations of the study, delimitations, and so forth. You should connect it back to your primary research questions. Maybe you have research questions like, what are the effects of COVID-19 pandemic on African economies? You should give us, when I read your literature review, I should see that connection back to your research questions and back to your topic. Next slide. As far as literature review is concerned, how do you organize your literature review? In most cases, literature reviews can take many different organizational parts depending on what you are trying to accomplish with the review. I'll give you 3 examples of how you can organize your literature review. The first one, we have the chronological order. This one, it is the simplest approach. It is used to trace the development of the topic, which helps familiarize the audience with the topic. For instance, if you are introducing something that is not commonly known in your field, if you choose this strategy of chronological order, be careful to avoid simply listing and summarizing sources in order. Expound on them, explain, if possible, mention, bracket them, put them in italic so that we can understand and move along with you in your research done. Try to analyze the patterns, turning points, and key debates that have shaped the direction of the field. Give your interpretation of how and why certain developments occur. As mentioned previously, this may not be appropriately in your discipline. So we have cases where researchers might try to move from one field to another. Before you move, you should be consistent and make sure you know and understand your area of study. That's why I said the study in science is different with that study in social sciences. The next organization pattern, we have what we call thematic, from the word theme. If you have found some recurring central themes that you will continue working with throughout your piece, you can organize your literature review into subsections that address different aspects of the topic. We are using our topic, the effects of COVID-19. Now, you can break down these effects. You can break them to social effects of COVID-19 on the economies. You can break them down to political effects of COVID-19 on the economies. Then you break them down to economic effects. That is thematic. You are breaking it down according to themes. The theme of sociology, in the social setup, in the villages, in the houses. When people lost jobs, those who are depending on them, they really suffered. They could not now put food on table. That is a social effect. Economically, the countries could not now raise the development. What? People are dying, cases are increasing. In the hospitals, there is no medication. Medics are on the strikes, are on the rampage. There is no money to pay them. That is an impact that is affecting the economy of that nation. Politically, nobody is interested in politics. Nobody wants to hear about our president has said this, our prime minister has said this, because people are suffering. The disease has really affected the people to the extent of they only want to hear that we still have hope, we can survive, it is well, it shall be well, full stop. Anything else, they don't want to hear. That is the thematic organization. You organize it in sub-themes, subtopics. Then we have the methodological organization. If you draw your resources from different disciplines or fields that use a variety of research methods, you can compare the results and conclusion that emerge from different approaches. Different researchers use different research approach. You can use the qualitative versus the quantitative. Qualitative has to do with quality. Like, for example, we want to compare between before COVID came and after COVID. How have the economies changed? Now, we can compare with the quantitative. Quantitative has to do with the figures, statistics, facts. Before COVID-19, we didn't have high death rate. People were well, people were healthy, and in the hospitals, women were giving birth to newborn babies because the health is okay. Okay. Now, after the pandemic, there are no more birth rates. People are succumbing, people are dying as a result of the virus. The general population of various countries reduced. That is now quantitative. You are dealing with the research topic in terms of figures. We have empirical versus theoretical, or you can divide the research by sociological, historical, or cultural sources, according to your area of study, your field of study, and your topic of study. The next slide. We have strategies you can use while writing a literature review. Any literature review is only as good as the research it discusses. Make sure your sources are well chosen and your research is thorough. Don't be afraid to do more research. If you discovered a new thread as you are writing, you will find people tend to take more time on research work compared to coursework. Because coursework, you don't need to go to the field. You just need to read books, get the content, and write exams. But research, we have facts. You need to tell us. You are sure COVID-19 has some adverse effects on the economies of third world developing countries. Can you prove that? Can you justify that? So you should go back and find out. You should not operate from ulabalus and hearsays. No, you should have facts at hand. If you are sure that COVID-19 made people lose jobs, can you quote some examples of countries where people lost jobs? Do we have facts in their government databases, in their information management systems? Can we find such information? As you are doing your research, create an annotated biography. Much of the information used in an annotated biography can be used also in a literature review. Annotated means we had people who did that research before you came, and they have their own facts, which they presented and they put them on table. If you compare theirs and yours, are there any gaps? If the gaps really exist, what are you doing about the gaps? Now, that one is becoming a research. Usually, you will need to synthesize research rather than just summarizing. You should have facts. You should have facts. This means drawing connections between sources to create a picture of the scholarly conversation on a topic over time. The issue has been effects of COVID-19 pandemic. Now, do we have all the facts? Have we gathered anything? Have we gathered everything? Can we convince that it is true COVID-19 had an adverse effect on the economies of developing countries? If yes, can you present the facts? Many student writers struggle to synthesize because they feel they don't have anything to add to the scholars they are citing. No, that one is a wrong notion. As a research and a researcher, you should be innovative. According to so and so, he said this. Now, you have gotten the insight. What do you have to say? A literature review will help you to remember that the point of these kinds of synthesis is to show you, your readers, how you understand your research, to help them read the rest of your paper. Supposing I'm not there to explain to the people when it comes to data collection, but if they read the literature review, they can be able to synthesize and give me the feedback that I need. For example, which challenges did you face during the COVID-19 pandemic? They will list them because they have understood your research topic and your literature review. The writing teachers often say synthesis is like hosting a dinner party. Imagine all your sources are together in a room discussing your topic. What are they saying to each other? Look at it in the context of citations in each paragraph. Are you citing just one source for each paragraph? This usually indicates summary only. When you have multiple sources cited in a paragraph, you are more likely to be synthesizing them. What you should do, you should spread the sources. When you quote one source, try to find out and give a broad description of that source. Don't just paraphrase. That way, you'll not be helping your readers. They should, when they read themselves, they synthesize, they understand, they analyze, and they give you whatever you want. Because at the end of the day, you need to collect data, you need to analyze data, you need to present data. Next slide, kindly, Dr. Ongari. We have been talking of sources. You need to review sources from various sources. You need to find out which source says about what concerning a given topic. 100% sure right now, we have several sources trying to tell us about the effects of COVID-19 and the pandemic on the general entire nations that were affected. You will need to consult a wide range of information sources. Information sources include contact with the peers, one-on-one. Supposing we are master's students, we are PhD students, we are postgraduate students. I have this research topic. Could you please recommend any source that I can get information concerning the topic? That one is a source. Your peer educators, those are sources. Your colleagues, those are sources. That is where you will get your information. Now, we have other researchers. We have your librarian and your supervisor. All these, they are sources in literature review. What you might be knowing about COVID-19 is not the same thing that I might be knowing. But when we put heads together, we can come up with a point concerning COVID-19. Other important information literature review sources include journals in your area of specialization. If you are a Master of Science, if you are a doctorate student in the field of information technology, you should look for sources that talk about information technology. You don't look about sources that talk religion to get research topics for your IT research. No. If you are a student in medical science, get resources from your area of specialization. Don't cross. All these journals are all over. If you type in the website, just Google, you will get a lot of resources and journals concerning different fields of study. We have books and newspapers. People did research, they found out, and they concluded and give recommendations. The books have been published. They are in libraries. You can get them. We have theses. We have dissertations. All these are sources of literature review. You should have information before going on the table to write your literature review. We have abstracts, research papers, maybe papers presented in conferences. You can get some information from the same and try to compare and contrast. Does these resources align with your topic? Are these sources going to assist you broaden and expand your research? We also have education resources information center. You can Google maybe University of London, maybe universities in South Africa, universities in Nigeria, universities in Kenya, universities in the United Kingdom, and so forth. All those, they are electronic education resources. When you get them, you read and find out, do they align with your topic? Are they in line with your study area? If not, you get to the next resource. We also have the internet, the websites, the unique resource locators. When using a search engine like Google or Chrome or Yahoo, just try and search effects of post-COVID-19 pandemic on the economies of developing countries. And you will just see a variety, a vast source of information. From there, you can sit down with your paper and pen and note the sources that will be very useful during your research. Because when you finish your research, you will have to give us your bibliography. You will have to present to us your references. Now, during the identification of review resources is where you will also get your references to write at the end of your research topic. We also have government documents and bibliographies. For the case of literature review sources, there are some websites that may be useful. For example, here, I tried to find out from the internet. We have the literature review, a few tips on conducting it. This is University of Toronto. We also have literature reviews, University of North Carolina. We have how to write a literature review, University of California. We have the Writing Center, University of Wisconsin in Madison, and so many others. Maybe after the presentation, Dr. Wangari can share the sources so that you can have a look at them and decide which sources suits your field of study and which sources are going to help you in your study. We also have ebooks. They are found online. These ones, you don't need to purchase them. Remember, as a researcher, a research book is very expensive. Some goes up to 2,000 shillings, 3,000. And maybe at the moment, you are not economically viable to do so, but you can at least get bandwidth to Google for a book that can assist you. We have books like The Literature Review by Lawrence A. Machi, Brenda T. McEvoy. Another one doing a literature review in health and social care by Helen Evian. This one can be helpful for those practicing maybe maternity, those practicing medical science, and so forth. We have like conducting research literature reviews from the internet to paper. You just Google, read, get what suits you, which doesn't suit you, you leave it out, and focus on whatever is going to help you. You have reviewed your literature. You have found out what other researchers have done. You have read their works. Now, you want to sit and do your review as per to your topic. How are you going to align your review? This is reviewing and abstracting literature. After thoroughly reading a document or article, keep two types of records. One, you make notes in terms of concepts, variables, problems, observations, and reflections about all these aspects. Number two, you keep literature. Literature is the done work by other people before you came. Remember, you now want to do your own work. After you are through, you will also publish so that other people can also refer to your work, and they will be reviewing your work as they do their literature reviews. You should keep citations. You write when you find them. According to so and so, he said this in his journal number, this and this volume, this page. It will really assist you. We have what we call footnotes and endnotes. For notes, make notes of everything you read, including an accurate note of all quotations at the time you read. Notes may be made on special cards or in a notebook. Whichever you decide to use, stick to it. When recording sources, make sure you always note the author's name and initials, date of publication, where was it published, the title of the source, and the publisher. Decide on a system of reference and stick to it. You can decide to use the APA style. Use that one for referencing. The style of referencing varies from one university to another, depending on the senates in those universities. Derive list of categories as you review the literature and make your notes. You may write these categories or keys in pencil in case you wish to change them later. You come and wrap, you add your idea, you bracket and underline. Next slide. Presentation of the reviewed literature. You have reviewed your literature, you have read sources, you have gathered information, you have written down references, you have written down stick notes. Now, you need to present your reviewed literature. What do you have to say as far as COVID-19 as a pandemic and its effects are concerned on the economies of third world developing countries? The reviewed literature is best presented by using subheadings, which should reflect variables and other attributes for your study in terms of content, scope, and methodology. For each subheading, begin with the most general findings and end with the most specific. During your literature review, you found out quite a number of authors, researchers, and whatever they did. Those are general findings. As a researcher, you are doing your literature review as an individual. Narrow down to the specific content and tell us what you think it should be. It should be noted that in presenting the reviewed literature, it should be analytical rather than merely cumulative. That is to say, it should be integrated and synthesized to give the reader a clear picture of the status of the problem. Don't be too general. You move from general view to the most specific view. The overall picture as presented in the literature review should provide the gap that the study must attempt to fill. Remember, this is a problem. We have a problem at hand, the effects of COVID-19. Now, what are we going to do? What is the solution to the effects? How are people going to benefit after I have done this research? You see, the gaps may include the following: the scope of the problem, the variables and concepts, the research design. Maybe a previous researcher used a design that does not really align with the problem at hand, but you have a most appropriate design that suits that research. You add it there. That is a gap. You have identified it. We have population and sample size. Maybe the previous researchers, they did a narrow and shoddy work. Their sample size, they used 10 people to gauge the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. And you know, in the contemporary society, we have different levels of families. We have the low level, the middle level, and the bourgeoisies. Supposing the researcher only interviewed and got information from the haves, that is the bourgeoisies, and left her out the don't haves, that is the poor in the economy, in the community. How are we sure that COVID-19 in real sense had effects on these people? So you should look at the populations and the sample size. Are they directly proportional to the problem at hand? Now, instruments used for data collection. Maybe a previous researcher might have used observation. He just or she just observes and makes conclusion. You can come up with a variety. You can incorporate observation. You can incorporate interview schedules. You can incorporate discussion groups and so forth, so that you can get more and more data that will be 99% whatever you are doing is correct, and it is going to give you the required output. Then lastly, we have the statistical procedures. Which procedures are you using to analyze and present your data? Do you have maybe any softwares you are using for data analysis? If yes, are they up to date? If not, what are you doing? Somebody might have used an older version, outdated version of SPSS data analysis, but you have the current one, the most current one. You can use that one to analyze the data and get the correct output as required by your research. Next slide, Dr. Wangai, kindly. So in summary, what are we saying? We are saying in writing the literature review, the purpose is to convey to the reader what knowledge and ideas have been established on a topic and what their strengths and weaknesses are there. The literature review must be defined by a guiding concept. For example, your research objective. What are your objectives as far as your research topic is concerned? To identify the effects of COVID-19. What is the problem at hand? The problem here is the COVID-19 itself as a virus. Now, do you have an issue, or can you give us way forward? Can we discuss? Can we argue? Can we roll out arguments on how we are going to solve the problem at hand? The problem is COVID-19. What do you think are the solutions? That's now where the issue of wearing masks came in as a solution, as recommendations. That is where now social distance, 1 meter, 1.5, 2 meters came in as a solution to the problem at hand. And this solution aligns well with your research questions and your research objectives. It is not just a descriptive list of the material available or a set of summaries. No, it should be something that is viable, objective, and not subjective. Thank you, Dr. Wangari.
Oh, what a presentation. Thank you so much. And thank you, our audience, for your kind attention throughout this presentation. We've had a lively audience and wonderful, wonderful participation. So now I'd like to open up the space for any reflections, questions. And before I invite a few people to ask questions, and I already see some questions in the chat and some comments, I also would like to request everybody to fill the feedback form that I had shared earlier in the chat. I'd like you to please fill it in, and let's take a minute to do that. Your feedback is valuable to us. We'd like to know what went well in the presentation that you liked and what we can improve. So please do that. So I have just reshared the feedback form, and I can even screen share it just so that everybody can confirm that you can see it. I'm going to be taking your questions, so keep them coming. Shortly, I will read a few in the chat. And if we still have some time, we might also take some people sharing by asking live. So here is I see already a raised hand. Thank you, Isaac. So here is the feedback form. Basically, it will ask for your details, how satisfied you are with the event, and so on and so forth. So please proceed to fill it, and we will appreciate if you will do that. So before I give Isaac a chance to speak, I will actually read someone inboxed to me on the Zoom. This one is anonymous. They didn't want to be seen, but they're asking, does research allow us to dispute the fact that COVID-19 was mere propaganda? It was just an agenda. It was not a real pandemic. A very interesting question here, inboxed to me. And the deaths were actually associated with other forms of intoxication. There was no virus, really. This person doubts that actually COVID-19 happened. So does literature review enable us to produce, such a level of argument? Let's start with that one, quite controversial one. So Dr. Steve, what do you think about that? Can research allow us to dispute the fact that COVID-19 was just a mere agenda rather than a pandemic? Can somebody write a whole paper just on that,
Thank you very much, Dr. Wangari, for that question. Yeah, it is really a controversial one. Mm-hmm. Because from the look of things, this one is something that was all over. And as a researcher, now that you are looking into literature review, maybe we can start by looking at other works done by other people in the same field. We have papers which have been published about COVID-19, and if they are, what were their contents? Because I don't think 10 or so people can write about something and it comes out to be wrong, or it comes out to be a mere propaganda. No, I don't think. Because as far as research is concerned, one aspect is researched on and improved by the next. Now, if you want to dispute it was a mere propaganda, do you have the facts? As for me, if you ask me, I cannot say it was a propaganda. We saw people dying, right? We saw people being put to bed. People were under ICU. People were in oxygen. Like, seriously, I don't think it was a propaganda. Now, after the research on COVID-19 was done, that's when the solution to wear masks, to do social distance, not to shake hands, you just, came out. And that's how they realized this one can be controlled through these means. And that's how we contained the virus. So I don't think if it is a propaganda, it was real. Thank you, Dr. Angai. Maybe Dr. Angari, you having a problem with your network? Somebody, Paul Hassan, you asked if we can write conceptual framework with the theoretical framework in your literature review. Actually, this one, it depends with the university, the rules and regulation. What does your university tell you to do? What is their format of doing a proposal, a concept paper? Because at the end of the day, each university, according to its regulation, some will tell you to combine the conceptual framework and the conceptual framework and the theoretical framework all under the literature review. But others will tell you to put the conceptual framework and the theoretical framework in chapter 1 during the introduction of your topic. So this one, it just depends on the format of writing a research proposal, a concept paper, a dissertation is outlined by your university board. Yes. Then we have somebody, Victoria Gitau. How can we slides present for studies? Very informative. Okay, Victoria, Dr. Wangari will be able to share the slides after the presentation, and we will get them via your mails. Nduthu, the notes will be recorded and we will get them after the presentation. You will consult with Dr. Wangari. Zipora, okay. Then we have Esther Njoki, how to write a review paper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Now,
sorry, I got cut off, but I'm back. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, welcome. Esther Njoki, you're asking how to write a review paper. The way I told Paul Hassan, different universities have different structures of doing things. Maybe in one university, their review paper has a brief description of what they want to study. I'll just give you a brief, just a minute. Now, in some universities, they call it review paper. Other universities call it concept paper. Other universities call it research paper. You see? So it depends with the curriculum and how the boards of different universities operate. Supposing it is a university that uses a review paper or a concept paper, the contents on how to write a review paper or a concept paper, you should just tell us what broad definition of your research problem. What are you going to research in your review paper? Then you should also tell us where, the location of the study in your review. Remember, it is a review paper. It is a brief, a skeleton of a wider perspective study that you're going to undertake. You should also tell us why, the overview, justification of the proposed problem. Do you think it is important to do the problem? If yes, why? Now, for example, the issue of COVID-19. Why should we do it? Because people are dying, people are losing lives, people jobs are being taken away, and they are the breadwinners of their families. People are losing jobs. So what do? We should find a solution. You see, that's where people started working from home. I think it was an idea, a skeleton idea, that somebody find out that if we work from home, we will contain the virus and we will not spread it. We should not use hard money. Let's use liquid money. You transfer. That's the issue of paying via M-Pesa, tills, online global money came in. And for sure, the virus was contained. So for a review paper, you should tell us, what are you studying? Where are you studying it? The location? Why do you think it is important? Then how? The general explanation of research methods. How are you going to do the research paper or the review paper? And in most cases, it should not be more than 3 pages. 1 to 3 pages is enough. Thank you. Then we have another one here. Let me check the chat.
All right. Yes. So I hope Esther, I hope Esther, another question. I don't know if you are going upwards. There's the ACOL framework in our literature review. Have you answered that?
Literature review. No, I was scrolling through the questions.
Okay,
So,
please go ahead.
Esther Njoki have answered yours how to do a review paper. It should just be brief, a skeleton. Tell us what you want to study. Why do you want to do it? Where are you doing it? Your location. Then Hassan have also answered yours. Is it possible to include theoretical framework in our literature review? That one will depend with the organization of your university. How do you do things? If you are doing the two combined, well and good. But some universities, they don't do. Like ours, you either choose the conceptual framework or the theoretical framework. You don't do two. Then how does one structure their literature review so as to make it more, who is this? This is Paul Hassan. How does one structure their literature review so as to make it more robust and acceptable? Paul Hassan, if you look at the structure of the literature review, we said basically it has 3 parts. It has the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. In your introduction, you should tell us about your topic. What are you studying on? In your body, you should tell us what other people have said about that topic and what do you want to say about it. What is new about your study? You identify the gaps. Then in your conclusion, you tell us how you are going to fill the gaps. That way, your literature will be superb. Then, how could a researcher involve the literature review in their research paper publication? This is Paul Hassan. How could a researcher involve the literature review in their research paper publication? As far as publication is concerned, in most cases, as the papers have come across, most of them have not seen people publishing literature review. For example, the abstract papers, the concept papers, the research papers. They just tell us a brief description of the problem, then where the problem was identified, then why it was identified, why the research is important, and the solutions to that problem. The literature review will just help you as a researcher to lay a foundation, a basis for your research, so that when you will be presenting your data and doing your research methodology and research design, you will be basing your facts from your literature review. Then, who is this? This is Solomon Dr. Wangari, I think you will assist Solomon is saying, I am interested on both presentation, record, and slide. Share me. Okay.
Sure. As
Yeah.
you said earlier, we'll share the recording. And for those who would like to join Africana Journal Club, I have posted the link of the Google Doc so that you can register your application. Yeah.
I think from my end, how can we do a literature review for research that is just evolving? That is a gray area. This is Paul Hassan. A very good question. And thank you for this one. Now, this one, if you remember, and when Dr. Wangari will share the presentation, there is a place I had said, when the research is green, you should not be brief. You should not summarize. You should not paraphrase. You should be extensive. Tell us more. We need to know. We don't know. You are the one who has the information. So you should also explain to us for us to understand. Then, who is this? Hello. That's crazy. I think I've exhausted the questions from my end, Dr. Wangari.
Thank you so much. I also see a hand up, Isaac and Ketsia. Welcome.
Yeah. Kudos to you, Stephen.
Thank you.
That was a very comprehensive presentation. I really enjoyed it, yeah. But I was taken aback as to whether you can touch on how a systematic review too is done, because that was missing in your presentation.
How a systematic review can be done?
Yeah.
Okay, just a minute. Systematic. Maybe as I still find it where I had written it. Do you have another question as I attend to Isaac Nkesia?
So has everyone been answered who has asked questions? I've also seen lots of comments of thank you. There's a comment here from Mary. She says that Mary Cocker, I like the comments in new areas. In grad school, we were discouraged areas or topics. This is a very interesting one because how do you research a topic that has not been researched much? So the idea of how to actually derive studies, especially from narrowly researched topics, and that's actually the reason why you are interested in that area. I also happen to be in that situation when I was doing my research, because my study was on an area that was not very popular, at least in my region. So yeah, thank you for that comment. I believe everybody else is answered. There are comments here. Kudos to you, Steve, on your presentation. Lots of people saying thank you, sir, for the wonderful presentation. Insightful. Yes. Yeah. All right.
I got it at Isaac Nkesia. You're asking about a systematic review. Eh? You know, with the systematic, it's quite tiresome and it needs some bit of patience. And for you to be able to do a systematic literature review, one, you need to formulate a research question. Do you have the question in hand? What are you going to research about? Then you develop a protocol. You need to identify your area of study, your field of study, the people you are going to study about. After formulating the research question, then after developing the protocol, you now need to search for all the relevant studies. Remember, it is a review. We are doing literature on other works done by other researchers and other scholars. So you have to read, do an extensive research on the available resources, as you compare with your study, your research topic. Then you apply the selection criteria. You take the ones that suits you as far as your study area is concerned and your research topic is concerned. You should not go against or astray with your study topic and your research area. Then you extract the data that suits your research. That's why we said you should make notes. Whichever method you use, adopt to it. You can use database management systems, you can use sticky notes, you can use notebooks. Then you synthesize the data. You need to understand. You need to dig deeper. We are talking of COVID-19. What effects did it have on the economies of third world developing countries? And is it true these effects, some of them can be solved? If yes, how are they going to be solved? Is there somebody who has studied about the solution to these effects? Then you write now your literature review. Yes. Isaac?
All right. Isaac, are you well answered?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay.
That's fine. But I don't know whether I can also ask another question or.
Yes, please, Isaac, go ahead.
Yeah. So, Steve, how does systematic review differ from meta-analysis?
How does?
Systematic review, how does that differ from meta-analysis?
Sorry, I don't get the last part. Meta-analysis.
How does
Meta-analysis. Yeah.
systematic review differ? How is it different from meta-analysis research?
Exactly.
Meta-analysis research. Hello.
Yeah, meta-analysis.
That one I've not ventured much into it. Maybe if I can do more, then I can give Dr. Wangari feedback and you will get it via our chat boxes.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
I like the sincerity.
Okay, thanks.
All right, we'll be happy to take another session for sure on this. So we still have some minutes to the top of the hour.
Yeah, like 5 minutes or
And
so.
Yes, and there are some more comments. Thank you so much for a good presentation. Regina says, thank you. I got my answer. I need to focus on introduction, body, and conclusion. I think we are all well answered. To take this opportunity to thank you, our presenter, for gracing us with your time and expertise to do this wonderful webinar on literature review. As you can see from the comments, we are asking for more, we want more. So maybe because this is a very broad topic, maybe in the next presentation, if you will be available for us, it will be good to go into detail, maybe in one aspect, like synthesis. I see it as an aspect that a lot of students and researchers struggle with. I see a hand, Florence, so make it short. Welcome. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm Florence Nasiwa. I'm a postgraduate student at Moi University. And thank you, Dr. for the presentation. I have one question. Now, upon identification of strengths and weaknesses from a literature source, should a researcher focus on strengths or focus more on weaknesses? That is my question. What should we focus on more? Is it on strengths that we identify, or we focus more on the weaknesses? Thank you so much.
Wow. Actually, that one is a good and elaborate question, Madam Florence. Usually, we focus on the weakness. That's why we said you need to identify the gaps. The moment you know a given research that was done some time back, it does not add up to your expectations. You take that gap, the weakness, I mean, you work on it, expand, and redo the research. So you don't focus on the strength, because you might end up losing interest. You won't be motivated to do the research more and more. But the moment you realize there is a hinge, a technical hinge that needs immediate response, then that's where you pick it up. Let me give you, for example, you are driving your car, you are going to work, but you are on a jam. Then all of a sudden, your engine fails. Will you stop and pause and wait for the engine to start? You will have to find out, why has the engine stopped? That is a weakness. That is a gap. You need to work on it for the car to move. So we need to work on the weaknesses and not on the strength. Thank you, Madam Flores.
That's an interesting answer. And the response to you from Esther Obutu, I bought the do can do so as to enrich your study. I think Esther is also bringing the fact that a more balanced view of a perspective. But I think what we are all saying is that being a literature reviewer is like being a lawyer in a courtroom. You can advance an argument and you can bring all the agreements and disagreements, alliances and alliances, comparisons and contrasts, so that you really enrich, the discussion. I think for you, you are also answering from the point of weaknesses in terms of the gap and really trying to fill that in. So I don't know if you are well answered. Florence? Was it Florence who asked?
Yeah, that was Florence.
Yeah. So I have to again thank you, our presenter and our audience. And if you are a guest, you have not yet joined Africana Journal Club, you're welcome to join us. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I'll hand it over back to Dr. Steve to conclude if you have any closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Wangari. And I thank all the participants. We took exactly 2 hours. We started from 6 and it is 8 p.m. West African time, Nairobi. Maybe a parting shot. We had some people who had asked about a statement of the problem and literature review. When you are stating your problem, that one is in chapter 1. And in chapter 1 of your research, it has several subsections, which you need to work on. You need to brainstorm before now going to review your literature. After identifying your research topic, you should give us the background of the study. Where did the problem begin? How is the area around the problem? You give us the statement of the problem. You have to state it. Like in this region, there is this and this happening. Then you tell us the purpose of your study. Now that there is this that is happening, what are you going to do? Purpose of the study. Then the objectives, the research questions, you justify, you give the significance, the scope, limitation, the limitation. And here in chapter 1, you can decide to give us the theoretical framework, which theories are you going to use, or the conceptual framework. And if your university does not allow you to do the conceptual framework and the theoretical framework in chapter 1, you can push it to chapter 2. After you have done your literature review, then you can give us your theoretical framework or your conceptual framework. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good evening. Bye.
All right, thank you so much. So for those who are asking, yes, the recording will be shared. You will receive it if you're a member of Africana Journal Club. If you're not a member, you can join us. I see Dr. Lydia Wamboi from Nairobi is clapping. Thank you. A lot more thank yous coming. Everybody for being here, and have a good evening. I'll post the link for those who want to use the platform, so you can receive the recording, the materials there. Please fill out the feedback form as well. All right. Thank you, everyone.